we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Welcome, young adventurers. Dylan here, and on today's podcast, we have Jez Cajiao. He was born in 1980 in Hartlepool, UK, and raised in Washington, UK, by his mom and stepdad, along with his two brothers and sisters. Jez began working at the family catering business at age 11, but truly found his joy in welding. Due to welder's lungs, he was forced to switch careers, but only truly found love in his work when he became the author in 2020. Jez is best known for his series of the UnderVerse and his new release, Age of Stone. Jez lives with his wife, two kids, dog, cat in South Shields. And so without any further delay, I would like to welcome Jez. Hey brother. Good to see you, man.
Thanks, man.
I'm excited to talk to another bald-headed, bearded beauty, my friend.
Exactly. Hey, it's so much easier not having hair, isn't it?
Hair's such a dirty luxury.
Freeing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just get one of those little buzzers, go in the shower.
Whoop, done. I'm done, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah,
bit of polish.
I love it, dude. So I'm excited to talk to you, man. I love your book series, the UnderVerse. There's a bunch of really cool concepts and things that are inside there. Again, I'll do my best not to do any spoilers on this thing. But yeah, I mean, one of the things more than anything I'd love to learn, because we've talked before, and you feel like you have this kind of thought process of like, how did I get here kind of thing. And so I'm very curious, because you went from being catering to welding to writing the UnderVerse. Can you talk to me just a little bit about those transitioners in your journey to get into space? Yeah.
I mean, of course, yeah. As I say, I grew up in catering, so it was a family business. So you sort of started about 11 in the kitchen as a dishwasher, and then you don't grow up in catering. You just get bigger and uglier, because it's like my traditional Christmas songs, for example, are Frosty the Pervert, Walking Around in Women's Underwear. Those are that's the songs I grew up with. So so spent a lot of time in catering, became a chef, restaurant manager, as you do.
Cool. Yeah.
It was good. I drank a lot of booze.
Nice.
So I've drifted for a little while between other jobs, trying to decide what to do with my life.
Yeah.
Ended up eventually in welding, which I fell into, and loved it. It was just because in the welding environment, you discover that you've got this sort of great big heavy equipment on, but you put your earphones in, put your audiobook on, put your helmet on, nobody knows, and you're just rocking on with your day, listening to these great, fantastic stories, and just there's that sense of achievement when you, as a welder or in any other job, when you know you've done something like really well. As a welder, you can see it literally as that's a fantastic weld in front of you, and you're like, hey, quite happy with this, rocking on with life. I loved it. Then, unfortunately, I was exposed to a lot of chemicals. A bunch of us in the factory were, and a lot of permanent damage to the lungs, which at the time I was a bit annoyed about, to say the least. I was a bit pissed. Yeah. But now you get on with life, you decide, well, you can be upset or you can move on.
Yeah.
So I segued into wanting to have a career again rather than just another job. Went and spent some time looking and ended up in IT. I ended up getting an apprenticeship in IT at 36, which first of all is not easy to do, and secondly, it's horrific in some ways because you're 36 and everybody else is like 17, 18, and they're all so much better at IT.
Yeah, of course.
And they're all talking about these technical terms, and I'm sitting there going, how do I do that again?
I'm out of place.
I was so out of place. And then I was down in London on a training course, and it was 2 weeks of utter bloody hell, learning to work out subnet masks and all sorts. And I was looking for something new to listen to on the way down, and I sort of picked up this audiobook by a guy called Alaron Kong and listened to the first book, and it just blew my mind. I didn't have time to game so much anymore, and I was always on the road with this job. I was literally field-based engineer, so I'd be driving up and down the country. 4 or 5 hours drive to get to a job, an hour at the job, and then 4 or 5 hours drive back. And suddenly finding these lit RPG as a series, and as a genre rather, and this series specifically that just gave sort of the mix, like that hit that you wanted from fantasy books and from gaming at the same time, and it was like, this is brilliant. And that was it. From then, I was hooked.
See, that's so cool. What's interesting, we have similar, not the exact, but backgrounds where, like, I actually used to own a catering business.
Yeah.
And so I was a chef, catering business, which involves a lot of drinking and cursing, and generally in the in the service business, you generally hate people over time.
Oh god, yes.
Right?
That's why I like the helmet.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
can punch people if anybody annoys you as a welder. You can just punch them. That's frowned upon in catering for some reason.
I don't know why. Yeah, everybody
know.
wants to. Yeah, yeah. No,
Exactly.
I used to serve like the late night bar crowd because I had my own food truck and catering business. And then, but the thing is, I had to deal with drunk people. Then you're like, okay, man, I really want to punch you, but then it's going to break down into escalation. So, and then
Yeah.
technical IT stuff after that. So I totally get that journey. And what's cool is you're kind of trapped in a metal weld box. And what I love about that is you had this little opportunity where you got to go and escape it. You literally had a fantasy escapation where you're inside this world. And then yeah, the Aileron, who's like, he's one of the dudes in the RPG stuff. He makes great books and all that stuff. It's a good exposure. But then you got inspired, and so did you start eating like other lit RPGs? Did you realize that's the fantasy genre that you liked?
I did. I mean, I just started reading more and more, and I came across a couple of sort of other authors that I really love to read and listen to, like Luke Chmalenko was fantastic. His because it was sort of the early days for lit RPGs across here, especially in
what
the
year
UK.
Was that?
3 years ago,
About 3 years
4
ago,
years ago.
Yeah.
So it was just starting to really take off, but there weren't that many authors in the genre, so you'd find either stuff that was really, really bad or stuff that was really good, and there wasn't really much of an in between. So I found this book. I downloaded this book, and I'd just recently gone through Luke's work, and then I sort of got, you start listening to the story and you go, this is really familiar. Thought, have I downloaded the wrong one? I've just made a mistake here. And then I went online and sort of messaged him saying, I've checked it. It's definitely your book, I'm sure, but it's under this other one. And it turned out that somebody else was ripping off his book to use it as theirs.
Oh, wow.
And there was this huge uproar at the time. Yeah, there was this huge uproar at the time, and it wasn't exactly his book, but it was so close. It was like, John walked into the room, Steve walked into the room. It was that kind of, and you go, come on.
Page for page, flow for flow. It's interesting because they say like, was it like if you're gonna like, you get inspiration, but if you take one-to-one inspiration, if I just open up your book and I just took all your lines and I just changed the words, complete plagiarism. But if I listen to 50 audio RPG books and I go through it and I kind of pick and choose pieces, that's just creation. That's just innovation, right? And
because it didn't exist as this before.
Yeah,
it existed as all of this.
Yeah.
So you're going, just chunking it down, and this is the bits you like. This is how you tie them together.
Yeah. So then, you're reading all these books, you're getting inspired.
I reached out to Luke, and so I told him what was going on, and there was this huge uproar at the time. And I asked him, why would people do this? Because thinking about it logically, let's say nobody caught on and he managed to get away with it. Well, what are you going to do once this book's selling really well? Because you're going to need another book after this. So he had the guy who'd copied this work had the background, he had the thoughts to be able to do it, and made more books going forward. But when I was talking to Luke about it, he just said, well, people do this. Nobody knows why, but if you want to do it, write your own stuff. And I was like, wow, I can't. I failed school. I got a lot of U's, I got F's. That's my kind of education, was the bottom of the rung. I was drunk throughout school. And literally he started pushing us, going, no, somebody, do it. Yeah. And then I'd talked to Aileron about something, and he started saying, well, yeah, just try. I mean, what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
And I was going through a real bout of depression at the time. I didn't know it, but I was starting to really, because as a welder, you're generally a big guy. You're lugging steel around all day. Most of the things I was working on were parts for Caterpillar trucks. So they're 100 kilos each. And I was lugging those all over the place, flipping them over and stuff to be able to work on them. So I was comfortable with my self-identity as this quite muscular guy. And then with the lung damage, I couldn't, cutting the grass in the garden would take me 2-3 hours because I'd do like one line and have to stop and rest.
Wow.
So I'm going through this real time where I'm losing my self-identity. I'm having to do jobs that I really didn't want to do. I'm not happy with where I am in the job world. I'm exhausted. I'm physically weak. I'm watching my muscles atrophy before me. And my wife's trying her best, bless her, to keep me on track. And I'm just sort of falling apart. And Aileron and Luke had both said, we'll just try writing. And then I went to see a doctor I can't remember what it was. It was about something stupid, like I'd broken a finger or something.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the fingers. I just bound them up. It was something else I'd gone to see the doctor about. And he just sort of wanted me to stay back. And he'd obviously seen the signs were there. And I had no clue. And my wife had seen the signs. And she's a nurse. So she knowing her, probably got in touch with them and warned them. And he started encouraging me different routes to try and deal with depression and giving me tablets, which didn't work.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you're saying right. They're saying right. I'll give it a go. It'll be crap. Because I failed school. It'll never be anything, but it'll be good for a laugh. And my wife just constantly sort of pushed me to try and to do. And I did. I tried for a little while, and then suddenly it got to this point when I realized when I was in IT, I was doing these jobs, and some of the jobs you'd do, you'd set things away, and it would be like 2 hours before you can do anything else. And so I just pull the laptop out and start writing. And working on my book, and then on the weekends I'd have like 2 hours here, an hour there, and I'd be frantically typing away and feeling so much better about life as I created this other world. And then we talked about it and just decided, well, it's time to either, shit or get off the pot. So we hired an editor who praised the work. And I sort of thought, well, you're lying. I'm paying you to look after this. This is why you're being nice to me. And she was like, no, it's good. I reached out to a brilliant artist, got the cover art done, and thought, the hell with it. Let's see what happens. And then people started being nice to me, and it was very, very strange.
It was very, very strange. It's an interesting transition you're talking about, because you had to be in like a ton of pain, and you had to have your like identity lost, where you're like, I'm a big, strong guy. This is how I bring value to the world. And then you have this thing of like, and you're right, like I'm sure pills, if there's certain places where pills make sense, but really, I mean, the depression serves a purpose. Like it serves a purpose. It goes, look, you're not happy. You're not happy. Do something. Do something. So I take it like when you did that, and then people, started being nice to you, then like the depression kind of faded away, and then you kind of felt.
Well, I found that the depression had totally got that. I have a chemical imbalance slight. I'm not crazy, very, but it means that a lot of painkillers don't really work on me. So generally, I just don't bother with painkillers, and I don't bother with tablets. So the tablets, these ones didn't really work on me at all. They just kept me from sleeping. So I gave up on them pretty sharpish, but found that the writing really did help. And as time went on, I just suddenly, got up one day and realized that I wasn't pissed at the world anymore. I don't know if you can hear my little one crying in the background there.
Baby. Oh, the beauty of working home, man. You can hear you can hear the life, you can hear people, you can hear things going on. It's cool, dude. I try not to have, like, one time I had like a 4-year-old come onto the podcast with her dad, and she was just an absolute terror. She was sticking like lettuce in his ear, trying to pick his nose. It was just like, it was brutal for the guy. And she was like a boomerang. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, buddy. It was fun for me.
It was hilarious to watch.
And he's just like trying to hold his stuff together. And I was like, I'm sorry, man. You're good on my side. So, but yeah, dude. Yeah, all good, dude. But with that, you're talking about chemical imbalance. So you don't feel pain. So it sounds super hero-ish, by the way.
No.
I don't feel pain. I do not feel pain.
No, I feel pain. I just don't get relief from painkillers. So it's more of the shitty side of the spectrum.
Oh no, the opposite. Well, what about? Let me ask you this. So, Jez, like the character from the UnderVerse that you write, right? And Jax. And so is that your persona? Or how did you create him? And where did, like, what were your inspirations for creating that character and the UnderVerse?
Well, some of it was sort of people I grew up with, because in England in the northeast, there's a very, very sort of grim and manly culture that you grow up with, and it's very, being a child growing up here, there is no, depression isn't acceptable, hard drinking culture. And you ever seen a film called Billy Elliot or heard about it? It's about
it's a tap dancing kid, right? Wasn't
yeah,
it?
that's shot in this area. And it's sort of like the background of this whole like, oh, it's not acceptable, you don't do that, is very much the environment here. But you've got the very grim sort of stiff upper lip thing, but you've also got, between the north and the south in England, you've got this sort of view that in the south that we're all uncultured heathens up here, which is quite true, and in the north that they're all just soft down there. And up here, it's very, very common to go out, have a night out, and end up in a fight. But which people don't ever seem to understand, which I thought was perfectly normal until I'd travelled a bit more, is that it's perfectly normal to get into a fight with somebody here in a bar or outside of a pub usually, and then for them to pick you up afterwards and for you to have a beer together. Because as long as it doesn't go too far, as long as there's been nothing stupid, there hasn't been nasty stuff behind it. If there's just been a disagreement and there you go, and then that's it, it's perfectly normal to have a beer with somebody and be like, yeah, oh, you got a good one in there. And that sort of, that rough and sort of ready approach is what I grew up with. So to use that to when I've sort of looked outside of the area and met a lot more sort of people, and you realize that this is very unique to our area, that this is it's seen to be sort of, it's dishonorable to do this and it's wrong to do that. And I used that to sort of build on the character, and then a couple of friends who are frankly nut jobs.
I love it. It's so the north is hard, the south is soft. Is it because it's colder up there, or what do you think are the elements that make them so hard?
I think we're all just a bit daft, to be honest with you. If you go out in Newcastle, for example, Newcastle's the city that's closest to me.
Yeah.
If you go out in Newcastle and it's sort of, knee-deep snow, if somebody's wearing a coat, they're going to get looked at very strange. So you don't have a coat. There's a skit out there called Geordi of the Antarctic that was released years ago, and it was I can't remember who it was that did it, but basically it just sort of shows all of the guys, slogging through the Antarctic, trying to find the pole, and then this guy strolls up out of nowhere in jeans and a t-shirt, and he's like, "You all right, lads?" And that's Geordi of the Antarctic, and he's like, "It's all right, I packed some beers," and there's the whole sort of like, "Oh, it's all right, man. Here, are you cold? Here, I'll give you my t-shirt." And that's the very much the culture up here, because it's what you grew up with.
There's a thing that goes on right now for a lot of society that men and really we're losing the right to be manly in a lot of different places, right? There's a lot of culture. There's a lot of places where we've created civilizations to be civilized, right? And while we're supposed to be providers, we're supposed to be caretakers, we're supposed to be protectors, but that male aggression, that male savagery is wrong, is frowned upon. But we have that feeling inside us. We do want to punch people. We do want to, and there are things that young boys and people like that, like you settle things with fists, and then you generally feel better afterwards. It just, for the most part. But if girls saw that, it's not okay, and people kind of freak out from that experience. Like I grew up with all brothers, where it was just chaos, chaos, right? And then you lived in the chaos, right? And that's what it was, kind of a Lord of the Flies, kind of just anything goes kind of experience. But there's a piece of that we miss, that we want to be able to have that manliness where someone goes, "Hey, let's take the decent path, let's take the safe path, we take that," and then like your main character goes, "Nah, fuck it, mate," and then just goes on the other direction, and then you're like, "Yeah, I kind of wanted to do that too," you know. And I love the repeating the term Daphne. Is that a common term that is used? Or that is just a
it was just as sort of it was just as posh a name as I could think of at the time, that was guaranteed to really wind a certain person up, a certain type of person up. That's very uptight and very sort of no. And I thought that kind of person who is, the thing is that growing up, there weren't very many people that were sort of LGBTQT and so on in the area.
Mm.
I mean, there were, but it wasn't. I wasn't aware of it so much.
Mm.
And now it's perfectly accepted and it's perfectly widespread
Mhm.
because people here don't really care.
Mhm.
That seems to be a massive thing about it, is that 99% of people, we don't give a damn what your sexuality is, or at least in this area, just that you're not a dick about it.
Yeah.
And so those people who take it like, oh, I can't believe you mentioned this, oh, I can't believe you said that, and you go, well, that's the kind of people, that's the kind of character that he refers to as Daphne, because seeing that instantly he would bite and that he would,
It's someone that takes themselves too serious, someone that
Yes.
values themselves above anything else. It's not necessarily about being called a female name. It's about
No, no.
you. It's about
It's
goading
about being
the other
called the
person.
wrong name.
Yes, yes, yes. And then he's like, treat me with respect, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's that. What's interesting, because you're talking about two character types, like, or not character types, but look at, like, there's like this rough and tumble guy who will punch people in the mouth, talk shit, and generally not necessarily do the right thing all the time, but do what he feels called to do, right? But then you
Yeah.
also talk about guys that don't be a dick, and
Yeah.
from a distance they would seem like the same people, right? They
Yeah.
would seem similar, right? How would you determine one or the other of those types of characters, right? How do you define that?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's, if you think that a general sort of sense of honor in that, in a situation, say it's all going wrong and you've got the chance to get out of town to, okay, I'll just do this slightly differently. Years and years ago, I was out many nights out a night out in Newcastle, and I'm walking down the street, staggering, looking for a taxi, blind drunk, can barely stand upright, and I hear shouts from an alleyway. I see this guy slap a girl, so I go straight across, spin him round, smack him, and then I got hit by her because they were apparently quite violent to each other normally, and this is just how they had these arguments. So in that situation, I felt that I was totally in the right to step in and defend her, even though it was nothing to do with me. But she would have said that I was being a dick. So it's all about the perspective going into that situation. The way that I was raised is that a man will always step in and defend a woman, regardless of what the situation is. If it was one guy or it was 15, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
it'll just get your teeth kicked in if it's the wrong time. But
it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense that from a guy's honor perspective, and because there's certain things that we don't tolerate, right? And no matter who you are, like insulting someone's mother, right? Like violence for someone's mother, violence towards children, violence towards women, right? Like those are ones that like all men will turn and go, what now? And they'll step into the situation. But I guess the perspective being, if they're already violent and then you punched her man.
Yeah, literally, I was in the wrong.
Yeah. It also, it'd be a very hard segue to, like, you see it, you walk over, you go, excuse me, miss, I see he slapped you. Are you okay with being slapped? I just want to check in to make sure, because before I punch him, because I'm going to punch you. I just want to get consensus from everybody in the group.
And at this point, he's hitting me in the side of the head.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so it's a perspective. So then so that's the don't be a dick policy to your best of ability within the things. Like, what do you think are the value sets that you try to carry with the character type as you bring them through the book series? Like, what are the things that the principles that he lives by?
Basically defense. I believe that a lot of the time he sort of looks at it and goes, look, this is my home. I'm saying that this is the line I'm going to draw. Everything behind me here is my home, and these are my people. And regardless of what's going on in the world, if you're my people, if you're my family, if you're my friends, then I will step up for you and I will defend you. And I would expect that you would do the same for me. But if I'm stronger, if I'm better able to defend or to fight or whatever, then you have the responsibility. Not just if you have the capability, you have the responsibility.
If you have the capability, you have the responsibility. Yeah, and you're right. And it's the defending, right? Because there's that because you're just someone trying to make your way, just trying to do good. You're just trying to be good. But then if someone, fucks with me and mine, you step into that, and that's where it makes sense. Yeah, and that's why he's on that journey, you know, and I'm doing everything not to, you know, try to do my best not to do spoilers, but he's trying to save someone he loves. He's trying to do something. He's on a journey to do that, and then end all be all, even if it's even at the even if at the sacrifice of one's own logical well-being, right?
Mhm.
Jumping in when he probably should take time or do things. There's a almost like a nobility in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so. That's what I was sort of aiming for. Is that it's things. I mean, I've made some of the situations quite obvious in sort of slavery and so on, and you know that well, this is wrong. There's no there's no grey areas involved there. It's a case of this is what's wrong, and you step forward and you try and fix it. But it's I tried to sort of have the logical thought as well that this is each step is logical. You know, moving forward and going, well, if I'm going to defend these people, I need this. I need to do this. There's no point where he goes, you know what? I want a really nice house by the beach. I'm going to go out and I'm going to fight for this. It's all just like, look, all I want is keep my people safe. And if to do that, I've got to have you. Bring it on.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's like, I'm just trying to grow me and mine, and then but people come in and threat, and then defend, and then through that defense and an expansion, something happens where it becomes more because of it. I want to talk just a little bit. I have some more questions about the book series, and I thought you came up with a really interesting concept. I'm going to dive in on the technical side, but before I get into that, I want to dive into your writing process. You write gargantuan-sized books, which is amazing. I love them, and I think it's great because as a consumer, it's very valuable for me to go through. How do you actually start to write these books? Like, and you start in the beginning, and you have several books in the series right now. What does it look like for you to keep track of all this stuff? How do you actually start to like go from I have an idea to I have a completed book? What?
I mean, I use World Anvil to keep things separate. World Anvil. It's a website you can do. It's basically a membership site, but you can get free account. A free account is perfectly fine for what you want to do. I've got a paid account, but that's because then people could come and look at mine and do it. But it's to build a world. So you say, right, well, I'm going to start off, I'm going to have Frank Jones. And you create this character and sort of create the little details for them. And then you go, well, Frank's married to Daphne, Stephanie, whatever. And you can create this character and you can link them together. So when you look at them, it shows the links between these different characters. And you can just build, you can have things like your encyclopedia, your world atlas, all sectioned out. And it makes it so much easier to be able to find these things. So when you go and, you know, later on, oh, he's got fire magic and he can do, and then 5 books down the line, you're going, what the hell was his fire magic? And you're searching through all these books, like searching on references for fire, for example, and 3,000 comments come up on it, and you're going, well, which one is it? Where is it? Where did I say this? On World Anvil, the way that I do it is I keep it on there so I can keep a reference to it. And I also give my editors nervous breakdowns when they check for consistency, reading through it all and going, you idiot, you said he was blonde, he's brunette here.
That's incredible. So you basically craft the world, and then you kind of like you glance at the world and you create the story based on the world. So you're kind of building in the world anvil, but then you write in like an outline, and then the outline to then copy.
Oh no, that would be logical. That would have been the sensible way of doing it. No, what I did is I found World Anvil around book 5. So until then, I was doing it all up here and searching. So what I do is I just basically find, you know, this scene, this starter nugget or whatever of this is what's happening right now, and I'd really like to get to that point over there, and I plan nothing, and I just start to write, and I find out what's happening at the same time as you do, and then try and find ways around it all. And some of the stuff that goes on, you're writing away, and you've got this plan in mind for later on in this chapter that X is going to happen, and you're just going to get to that bit, and you're halfway there, and one of the characters goes off on a tangent, and you're cursing it at the keyboard. You're going, you stupid sod! Just don't do that! Don't do it! And that's why my books are so big, because I just go off on tangents and deal with things. But yeah, I don't plan at all, and so they end up quite big. But I think it seems to be working out for me.
But you're in the flow then, right? You're just flowing it, right? And you're going through it. Then so what is it? So you're getting into the flow, and you're just you've got you've created the world, and then
Yeah.
and then now you're telling the stories about the world. But when you're doing that and you're going through that process, how do you get into the flow? I mean, do you wake up? Do you drink your morning coffee? And what does it look like for you the daily writing process look like for you?
I basically get up with having two kids. We've got a 3.5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And so we
Congrats.
get up and so obviously sort them out between my wife and I. And then once they're sort of dispatched to nursery and school and whatnot, I come in here usually for about 8:30 in the morning, crack on, and I read the last chapter that I'd written the day before, so get myself in sort of the swing of things and get into the feeling of it. And then I write sort of straight through till about lunchtime, stop for a quick sandwich or whatever, and then write straight through till 5. And I finish at 5 on the dot each
Oh,
day.
wow.
And it's literally a case of, because then I have my family time and time with my wife, and I view it as I've worked all my life. I've had proper full-time jobs, sometimes several, and this is, as much as I absolutely love being a writer, I look at it as this is a job as well. So I work 9 to 5 and
That's-
Monday to Friday, and I think a big problem for a lot of people is that you sort of go, oh well, I'm full time now, or I've off with furlough, which is when I started writing properly.
Mm.
And you go, I'll play on Facebook for a bit. I'll have a game on Civilization. I'll do whatever. I'll do an hour's writing. And that's the problem, is that if you go, well, no, this is sort of the start of it, and this is the end of it, I will write as much as I can in this time. And I do sprints on Discord with an app called Sprinto, which you can set for different times. And we do, in our little group, we do it for 50-minute sprints. So you have a sprint where you don't do anything else. You don't look at Facebook. You don't go to the loo. You don't do anything for 50 minutes. And you just hammer away. And you
Is
put
that
down.
is that a writing group that you're part of? And when you say
Yeah.
Discord, so you're part of a group of other writers, and then you
Yeah.
guys, okay, let's do a sprint. And then when you say that, then you turn on the Sprinto,
Yeah.
and then you go for 50 minutes straight. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end of it, so you say, right, well, I'm going to write for 50 minutes straight. And my personal target is 1,500 words per hour.
Mhm.
And if I get that 1,500 words per hour, I get to the end of it, you upload how many words you're at, and it tells you how many words you've got from X when you started up till then. And so if I'm under the 1,500 words, then I usually set myself either for every 100 words I'm under my target, I get 10 push-ups or 10 sit-ups or hammer curls for my dumbbells and stuff like that as punishment. And it gives you a real reason to, yeah.
Got it. So then you're like, okay, here's my sprint. Here's my goal. Here's my accountability with this group of people. If I don't hit my goal, here's my punishment, because, and then if you're short by X amount, it stacks up. And then, so if you're like, yo, I'm gonna go on Facebook for this, and you look, you're like, I have 500 push-ups or something like that. You're like, oh God.
Let's say I've got like 50 hammer curls because I've spent most of this last hour searching through trying to find, where did I say this? Where did I say that in the books or in World Anvil? Because I'm making the notes as I go now.
Yeah.
But if I come to a section I haven't made any notes on before, I'm having to search. So yeah, I'm like, oh God.
That's awesome, man. That's a really good process to get you up and to get you flowing and get you, because the thing is, like, if you took someone and you said, okay, you're gonna write 830 pages in this book, go, right? People go, no.
Yeah.
Like, people have a problem writing 10 pages, right?
Good God, yes.
Yeah. So I love that system and that flow. So then how did you end up finding this group of people? How did you end up joining the group of people?
Other authors, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I started using Discord. I'd never heard of Sprinto. And another author invited me to one of their groups. And these are all people that I read the books of anyway. And this is always so weird for me, is that these people that I've got so much respect for, that, a year and a bit ago, I was going, they're real authors and they're talking to me. This is amazing. And now I'm sort of writing with them, and I never expected to be accepted to do this. So it's very strange. But yeah, I just started chatting to them. And there's in Lit RPG, there's a couple of groups, like the Lit RPG Authors Guild.
Yeah.
And if you're an author, you can join the Facebook group and you talk.
See, that's cool.
It's brilliant.
See, that's so cool because that's what you need. You need groups of people, and as an
Yeah.
avid consumer of the content, I appreciate the higher output, and I do feel a bit. There's two perspectives I have with it. Like new book comes out, I'm super excited. It's several hundred pages. I eat it in a weekend, and I go, "What's next?" And
Yeah.
you're like, "Look, dude, do you know how many pages that
That was
was?"
4 months work,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. And I'm just having someone read to. I'm like, "Well, why don't you kick out more? Come on, give me some more
Yeah.
books, man!" And that's the. I mean, do you ever feel like the pressure to perform for your audience, or do you ever feel do you feel any type of, because you went from having people that you respect and you idolized, and to now they're your peers. They're now peers of
Mhm.
yours, right? And now you have this community of people that you weren't expecting. How does it? Do you feel like a certain level of duty or responsibility or something to perform at a certain level, or is there something that goes on with you, because you now find yourself in this really unique place?
It's a bit of both, to be honest with you. I mean, part of this is, as a welder, I was on quite good money, but you
Mhm.
know yourself in catering, money's crap. It
Mhm.
really is. And most of the other little jobs I did, working for places like EE and so on, were bloody awful, soul destroying jobs and getting very, very little money. And the same in IT, it's very little money until you get to decent ranks.
Yeah.
And so it's a case of now to be working and getting decent money
Mhm.
is, it feels then that I've got this, that I owe these people who've joined the story. I owe to get this to them, to create for them, for their support, their sacrifice, their. It's lovely. Some days, I'll wake up and I'll get a message, or I'll log into Facebook, and the first thing I'll see is somebody saying, "Oh, I finished this book last night. It was brilliant. You should all read it because I really liked." And it's like, they're talking about my book. This is mental. But to see that that's like the first thing that pops up, and I'm not tagged in it. I'm nothing. You
Yeah.
know, and to see that that's there. So there's obviously lots of posts you'd miss, but to see that as the first thing when you log in, you're like, wow, this is really humbling, and I'm very wow.
So it feels like a dream. It feels like
Oh,
but you
good God, yes.
Yeah, but you literally created your own world, like a new reality by writing your own reality. You've created another reality for
Yep.
yourself, which is incredible. Um, one thing I do want to talk about is, I love the book series. It's great. I highly recommend it for anybody listening. I love it. I'm more of an audio reader, and then one of the challenges I came across with the audio reading, was that the narrator was a bit harsh. There's a lot of
Yeah.
audio, a lot of volume issues, things like that. I don't mind the accent as much, but it's a bit intense of an experience to go through.
It
But I
is.
think I think the content's great. Can you talk to me about how do you deal, how do you handle with that situation, and then what does that look like, and then what do you do when you see those types of like comments come in?
To be honest, I mean, a lot of the comments are because
Mm,
Wayne, that I chose to do the audio,
mm,
is very enthusiastic. He's very sort of over the top, and he's like, "Ah," because my books, the way that I write and the way that I like to see it is, it's very much a case of action, 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 action. For the
yeah.
first book, especially, there's very, very little time for him
Mm,
to stop and to gather his thoughts and to react to the world. He's to plan things. He's very much always on the defensive and always reacting.
mhm,
And so Wayne carries that brilliantly in the whole like rah and excitement. But there were some audio balancing issues, and that was a problem because obviously when I've listened to the audio myself, you're listening to your own book, and so you, after a couple of lines, you go, and I should have written that better. I should have phrased this differently. I can't listen to them because all I do is I pull the whole thing
oh
apart.
no.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then a lot of people, a lot of the reviews on it at first weren't very kind, unfortunately. There's a load of people that say, this is fantastic, but Wayne that does it is very much an acquired taste. He's a Marmite. You love him or
Mhm.
you hate him.
Marmite.
I love how happy everybody is
Yeah.
with him. The vast
uh,
majority are very happy with him. I mean, 4.6, I think, or 4.7 on the
mhm,
reviews, and 900 and odd reviews on there. So I'm pretty pleased. But
mhm.
the ones that are at the very top are very much, he's always shouting. He's very aggressive. He doesn't do this. It doesn't sound right. And unfortunately, it's true that there were some sound balancing issues. So they've been corrected recently by Tantor,
Mhm.
and hopefully that fixes it moving forward. And I know the later books, book 2 to 5, are now out, and they've evened it out a lot more on those. So that's a massive relief. But just literally because I couldn't listen to them, because it's me pulling my own books apart.
Is
when people were complaining, going, "Oh, it's terrible. He does this, and he's too loud. He does that," I dismissed the "he's too loud and he's too quiet" as just more complaining.
Mhm.
And I really shouldn't have. I should have clearly listened to all of it.
Mhm. It's hard, and it's hard to go back and watch your own content. For me, it's
Oh god,
videos.
yeah.
I do a lot of talking, presentations, podcasting things, and I do not like to go back and like watch myself, watch my
Yeah.
communications, because it's just there's too much. And there's like this but there's the value in it. There's the value of the growth, because if you can face it, you can get better. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to, like, maybe there's a young kid out there who came across your book series and he wants to write his own lit RPG series and stuff like that? What advice would you have for them
Do
to
it.
get? Yeah, yeah, just
The best. Just literally give. If I'd tried writing when all this was going on for me, and I was sort of going, people like Alaron and Luke, who are the giants in the genre, are
yeah,
saying to me, "You should write. You should try this." And it's like, no, I shouldn't. I literally, as I said, I failed school. The highest mark I ever got was a C. I had no capability whatsoever with academic stuff. And then when I started writing, I sort of started a little bit of a try, and then I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I shouldn't be doing this. And I approached my wife and I said to her one night, I was quite nervous about it, and saying, they say I should do this. The doctor says I should do this. What do you think? Should I do this? And I was fully expecting for her to say, don't be so bloody stupid. I honestly, that's what I've been told by most of my partners my entire life was, don't be so bloody stupid.
Mhm.
And she was like, no, if you want to do this, do it. I will support you 100%. And she did. And we, at the time, as I say, I was going through
Good
different.
woman.
Oh, very much. But it was
Yeah.
like I'd gone from welding into an apprenticeship post in IT. This was a pathetic wage, frankly. It was literally a kid's wage. We were barely scraping by, and she's going, no, and I'm saying, but if I was to do this, it'd cost thousands for an editor. She's like, don't worry about it. If you put the effort in, if you write, we will find the money to do this properly. Because all that matters right now is that you try, and that's
Yeah.
it. And literally, all I would say to anybody that wants to write is try. You might, if you sit there and you read what you've just written, you will pull it to pieces. You will. Instead, start at point A, write to point Z, and do not stop. Write a little bit. Write 10 minutes a day. As long as you continue to go, that's all that matters. And one thing that I don't know about if everybody else finds, but that I found, is that if I read sort of a lot of lit RPG is, no consequences. It's sort of like it happens in a VR world or it happens something else. If I read too much of those, they're too happy. And that would infect my tone, essentially, as I was writing. But if I read more like grim, dark stuff, then I would go more the other way. So read what you want to write and just do it. Do 5 minutes, do 10 minutes. So you mentioned there from Nikki Duke saying you missed the site. It's World Anvil.
Oh, World Anfield.
Yeah, World Anvil is fantastic. Use that. I wish so much I'd started with that, because that would have made my life so much easier, seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'll check it out, man. Like when I'm the World Anvil thing sounds really cool. And yeah, it says I didn't even see Nikki do this. It says, this is awesome information. Thank you for sharing, Jez. Here, we'll pop that out there. Consistency, sharing the secrets about how you're able to keep a close eye on consistency. I can get the site that you built and the character's name. Sorry, I missed it. Thank you, Dylan. This guy rocks. Oh, dope. Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks,
Appreciate
dude.
it, brother. Yeah, he's an amazing artist. So,
thank you very much.
yeah,
Literally. I mean, tell me if you do go on a World Anvil, because I have it set so that my Patreon supporters can. I have sort of the overarching world, so you can see that it's there. but it's something that I give access to my Patreon supporters because they have access to the full stories. They have access to, much more, like several books ahead of everybody else, so they can see as I'm going, and they can see the changes to the characters and the events. But obviously, I know you. I'll get you in there and have a look about.
That's so cool, man. So your Patreon supporters have several books ahead.
Well, the Age of Stone series, or the Rise of Mankind series, the first book's the Age of Stone, that's out at the moment. I'm dropping the Age of Bronze next week, hopefully, and that one's been up on the Patreon for a while, and I've just finished Age of Iron. I'm doing my final sort of pass-through edit now before it goes off to the proper editors, and they've got access to about half of that because I upload 3 chapters a week, so they're always quite far ahead of everybody else, bless them. But it's brilliant because they'll say things to me. They'll send me a message and just go, "Jez, man, what are you playing at? This is no good. You need to, or you could have done this. Wouldn't it have been great if the character had done this?" And I'm going, yes, it would. Rewrite.
Copy.
Yeah, that's the better way to do it.
What's cool about that is you have a cohort of people that actually care, that are contributing, and that are that care, because if they're willing to spend money, spend time, and give feedback, I mean, those are the circle of people. You don't want haters from people who will never read your books, don't care about your books, that will never go across yours, giving you feedback about a book they'll never read. It's good to have those, like an inner circle of people guiding you on your path. So that's some really cool stuff. I really like that. In terms of one of the things I'm really interested in, I want to talk about here. You have a really cool concept that I haven't seen, and maybe I just haven't read all books. But one of the things that I really liked is the concept of the pearl. And so what I like about that, and can I talk about that? Is it okay? Okay. So what I really like about this is, people that create fantasy worlds inspire people like me, because I'm a virtual reality developer and builder and creator of things and stuff, and have to make these worlds into reality. And so, like, Lawnmower Man inspired virtual reality. These are things that people get inspired on, and then they actually create things. And so one of the things I've never really seen was a damn good reason why people level up in literal RPGs, right? It's like, oh, you get brought to a fantasy world and then you're off, right? And then all of a sudden all these magical, wonderful fantasy things happen. Or you're in VR, and because you're in VR, those things happen. But what you had, what I thought was a really cool integration, was this thought process of a thing called the pearl. And do you want to describe just a little bit what the pearl is?
Yeah, it's without getting too much in depth and things. I mean, it sort of comes in and out. It's structured throughout the books, but it's sort of very much in the first book and towards the end of book 6. It's very much in those sort of 2 areas, but it'll be quite a bit more important rolling forward. But the pearl concept is, as you say, it's like how do you develop these powers? So for these characters that have been taken out of the UnderVerse, the realm that they've come from, and that are in our realm, for them, they've left a reality where magic is commonplace and magic is everywhere. And they've come here where magic, or mana, to actually perform the magic, is so rare that they can barely do anything. It's sort of like the tiny little trickle of mana everywhere, as opposed to it being a flood in the other realms. So they go, right, well, if we're going to train people to be able to perform these acts, to be able to go home and retake our home, we can't have them just turn up there with no clue and no way of defending themselves, and suddenly, oh, magic works. I'll have to try and find somebody that can teach me magic then, please. And all these things. You have to give people a sort of a start to be able to go forward and training them. And so it was a case of, well, how would you do that in this world when we've already decided that there's no magic here, because otherwise we'd all be doing magic. And we'd all just be having a great time. It'd be wonderful, the stuff would get up to. And we'd all be in prison. But
invisibly flight,
Yeah, it's like, which one would you go for?
Yeah.
But so I started looking at it and started thinking, well, what would be a logical integration of this world and the fantasy world? And it would be that we don't have magic because we have technology. We've developed technology because there is no magic. While if you reverse it, if you had magic but no technology, you'd make all sorts of weird and wonderful, but it would all be based on the actual magic. which is, I think you said that you were up to book 3, so you're
Mhm.
into some interesting territory in the next couple of books when you meet people who work with magic a lot. Very
Mm.
crazy, very crazy. uh, but the pearl itself is essentially, it's a blend of mana and nanotech, in that it burrows through. It sort of unfurls in the body and creates pathways to
Mm.
be able to maximize the mana that is available to them and to unlock your potential.
Yeah.
But in doing so, it also sort of breaks down, well, this is how you are compared to a scale of what you could be. And so you have the genetics to be strong, weak, whatever, very heavy bones, you don't swim very well, and that actually comes from me because I swim like a brick. And that was before the lung damage. I swam like a brick. Honestly, I used to just dive into the pool and walk and jump back up at the other side. That's my swimming.
That's a superpower, man. You can just,
yeah, exactly.
I'm going for it. But what
Exactly.
what I think is really cool about this is, so you said like with nanotech, right? You have some sort of pearl. That pearl you can embed in someone's body. That thing unlocks your potential and basically resequences the DNA and does certain things in your body, and then allows you to gain certain powers, certain abilities, certain level up, certain characteristics, which I think is incredible. What I find amazing about this is just keep in mind from my world. 2 days ago, I had a friend of mine from Nano AI, which is a nano engineering company, where they do protein folds, where they use every buzzword in imagine, but they're a VR, they're a virtual reality company that's multiplayer, that uses they can fold proteins in VR, and it's tracked over the blockchain. So if I make a designer drug, and a pharmaceutical company can back it, I can make designer drugs and we can all work together. But what they were saying is, you can do a thing. This is going to get a little geeky technical, but I'm going to hop into what I like about this is right now you can sequence your entire DNA, right? Like 23andMe and things like that.
Yeah.
There's different companies that will sequence your entire DNA, right? And then you can use a program that Google came up with. Google comes up with these artificial intelligence programs. One was called Alphago, and it was playing, Go, the Chinese chess game.
Yeah.
So Alphago was an AI that played chess against itself, right? Or Go against itself, and it got better and better. Alpha phase is a thing that does the same type of things, but with drug sequences. So what you can do is you can sequence, and this is just super brand new tech kind of stuff, is you can sequence your entire DNA. And if a doctor's like, there's these 3 experimental drugs and we don't know how they're going to interact, you can actually run those drugs against your DNA to see how it interacts using the AI system of Google. And you can actually run those things, and you can actually try to make your own protein folds and see how it interacts with your system, right? And I just had that conversation with him, and I'm looking at your Pearl nanotechnology. I'm like, man, if there was like an AI that I could just put in my body, and I could just drop things into it, and I could try to get these superpowers, and the more things I experimented with, the more I leveled up. And I didn't, and the more I worked out, the more it like got me more strength I could invest. I don't know,
Definitely.
man.
Without sort of going too far with it, the next book I'm writing, I've got some of the sort of stuff planned out for it roughly in my head, and part of it is that the main character will have the ability to harvest nanites, inactive nanites, from his opponents. And then as you gather more, you can then build them into, right, I want to be stronger, I want to be faster. You can invest them into yourself to.
Yeah. So you're basically accruing the bits of the things that actually make other people more powerful, and then you can kind of harvest it into yourself. That is cool.
Yeah.
And that's what the how did the Pearl work? The Pearl works by basically assuming this genetic sequence of other characters and things like that, and being able to bring it in. And so I was looking at these 2 worlds at the same time. I'm like, I want to live in a real life video game. Come on, sign me up. Put me in the Matrix.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, when he sort of harvests the genetic matter from some of the other creatures he comes across. Yeah. And it sort of explains a bit further on that people there don't know about this, because this was something that only the nobility had access to.
Of course.
So because nobody ever knew about where this is coming from, these little sort of bits of genetics that people are getting from the Spore Mother, from other monsters, they're just having as like good luck tokens, because that's quite nice and shiny, And obviously the nobility have been kicked out. So they've got no access to it. When the main character Jax finds out, he's like,
Yeah,
"Gimme, gimme."
it's so cool. It's a fun concept, and what I like about it was a cool bridging concept, and things that I haven't seen before was, and it makes it. There's a thing that you want to live in this fantasy world, but I want it to be believable to a degree.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
definitely.
saying? It has to be coherent. You got to be able to track things. You want to be able to understand what's going on through it, and that's one of the things I thought was powerful. I mean, for you, um, we're going through this, like as you're building these worlds, and as you're crafting these environments, like, do you have like an end game for the book series? Do you have a thought process on what you want to go to, or is it like just going through the flow of it? But like for you, like what I would call the holy grail. Like what is the? Do you have a holy grail for this series?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a planned sort of end for it eventually,
Mhm.
and that I always I haven't seen done anywhere else. I mean, it may well have been done. I've just not seen it. But you know, when you watch series, you know, you
Mhm.
watch like Elementary, which is a fantastic series. I always loved watching. You
Mhm.
watch it, and it's a season, and then it finishes. But you could watch the entire season from start to finish. It's the
Yeah.
story itself isn't finished, but it's got an overarching sort of plan of this is what will happen in this series
Mm.
and this season. And I thought about it and thought, well, I'd like to do that because that way ties back a little bit to I feel that I owe my readers certainly, and that I know that sometimes you read a story and you get to that point and you go, I just can't be bothered with this anymore because it's just gone on too long. Or it's wandered from where you wanted it to go as a person. You know, you bought into this character when he was like this, and then as he's grown and learned, he's gone off in this way, and you think he should have gone in that way. And
Mm.
so people fall out of the series over time, just naturally go, I'm not going to read that anymore. And I thought one of the biggest things is that you want to know what happens, though. You want to have a start, a middle, and an end. So I'm writing the UnderVerse series as 3 different seasons. So 3 seasons of 6 books. So that way you have sort of an overarching, this is what happens in this area, and then the next series, this is what happens in this season, and then the next one. So
Mm.
that way, if people want to give up, you know, oh, I've had enough of that, I want to move on, there's still that sense of closure, which
That's
has
cool.
been, yeah, a satisfying, I hope, end to that section.
So you kind of yeah, you close out a series, but then you say, but awaits when he goes to this new continent or whatever the thing might be,
Mhm.
and then they can go through that and they can experience all of that. And then to me, like when you said 18 book series as a
Yeah,
with the how many hundreds of pages in each of the series, I was like, that
yeah,
is such a tall order. But at the same time, I would still go through it. I would still read it. I'd still get into it because you go through it and it becomes like there's like a hunger that I get when I eat these when I become invested, and then I have to be
mhm,
I have to manage my obsession with the books. I have to be like, because
yeah.
I feel like, and then but then I stop doing my work, everything falls behind. It's all that stuff. So I'm both excited and terrified at the option of that many books, because it'd be so fun to go down. But I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, nobody talked to me for a month. I've got
Yeah.
things to do. I'm gonna
Well,
put down, but it's fun.
oh yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, the 6th book in the series,
Mhm,
Empire, is
mhm.
413,000 words. So that's going to work out as about 44 hours of audio. So you think that's like a
Woo!
month straight to be recorded? It's like it'll keep you out of trouble for a while. You know, it's a full week or more of your working life gone.
Would you ever consider doing your own audio, like you reading your own audio? Is that
Oh,
something you ever thought about doing?
oh, I don't think I could.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think my accent would be right for it for a start. A lot of people can't understand me, so.
Oh,
But
okay. I just feel like I mean I can hear you fine. Maybe other people can't, but I was just curious because you wrote it, you got it, you know your
yeah.
characters, you can embody it, and it would be all you. It would be all you. And that,
Oh,
there's amazing narrators, amazing things, but it's one of those things that you're the creator of the content. I would be curious to hear you go through it because you.
I've thought about before, just for shits and giggles,
Mhm.
recording a chapter or a scene, and just being like, "There you go." I just thought I'd do that for a laugh. You
Yeah.
know, I on my Patreon I have a section called the Tome of Ages, which is just basically where I put in random scenes or random chapters or whatever from books I thought, I wonder if I could do, and I've spent like a couple of hours here and there on, and there's just like this hodgepodge of all these different ideas and dreams and stuff, and I might start picking from there and do a narration of it. But I think I'd just be too self-conscious. I'd get to the end of it, I'd listen to it and go, "What the hell was I thinking?" Unless I did it drunk, in which case,
could be entertaining. You're like, what did I do? Well, they say write drunk, edit sober, that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I literally, the way I write is I go from A to B, finish the whole thing. I don't go back and forth in it. Now, I just literally write. I make notes as I go and go, I've got to put that in later on. I need to add this in, need to add that in. Get to the end, go back to the beginning, put these bits in, have a quick read over the top, and then I send it off to the editor.
Oh,
because if you sit, a friend of mine said ages ago, Luke actually said that if you sit and wait until it's perfect, you'll never send it. Because you'll always find, because if you think that on like sort of a scale of 1 to 100, if every word you write, if every 100 words you write, you get infinitesimally better at writing or at telling that story, by the time you go from chapter 1 to chapter 50, you've gone like this in your skill. Now, it might be on the overall graph, you've only reached like level 2, but you have improved. So if you then go back to read from chapter 1, you'll go, I could phrase that better. I could change this and I could change that. And then you'll rewrite the entire book. And by the time you finish writing the book again, you've now leveled to level 4. Let's go back to the beginning and start again. And instead, I give it to my editors and give them a sort of a nervous breakdown. Just go, there you go, deal with that mess.
Take it, please, run away. I'm too busy. Can't hear you. I'm busy writing. Can't talk. That's awesome. Yeah. So with the 18 book series and this massive thing, what for you is what I would call your dragon? Like, what is the thing that seems so big to take under that you don't know if you're going to be able to do it to be able to complete this book series? What for you is your dragon?
Very much the power creep, because part of lit RPG is that, and any kind of fantasy, is that you want to see the character grow. You want to see them develop new abilities, to learn, to become more than they are. And if you think that from going from book 1 to book 6, the character has grown this much, they are more intelligent, they're stronger, they're faster, they have much greater control of magic. Well, I can envisage going from here to there because I'm here. I can't really envisage going to here because I'm not here. I'm not, so I can only build so far. And how far do you build before it becomes a world-breaking event?
Yeah.
I mean, if by book 10 he can, sink continents, well, he's not really going to have a problem with whatever I come up with. What am I going to have him fight? Asteroids, destroy them with a punch. It's like, what do you do? So that for me would be the concern.
Yeah, it's that Franklin Richards problem. The thing is, like, you can if you can make reality, destroy reality, then there's no so how do you keep the feeling of progression in the books without getting to the point where you've progressed them so much that it becomes unentertaining and you're now playing on God mode in a video game, which sounds like fun for about 6 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not a God mode player.
Yeah, me either, man. I enjoy the challenge, enjoy the grind. That's beautiful. This has been incredible, Jez. With all this being said, is there anything else you'd like to let people know about before you let them know how to get a hold of you and your book series?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I've got my Facebook is literally just Jez Cajiao author. I keep my Facebook and my private Facebook and my author one separate, just because I didn't at first, and there were some very strange people got in touch with me. So I'm now, obviously feel free to reach out to me on there. I've got access to my Discord on there. I literally am there all day, every day, Monday to Friday. I won't be on there tomorrow because I'm getting a tattoo, get my shoulder done. Nice. So I'm going to be busy. 8 hours tomorrow. That's going to sting.
Wow.
And even more fun, I'm going to be editing at the same time. So I'm going to have the laptop on one side, so going through. But I've got book 2 of The Rise of Mankind, which is Age of Bronze, comes out, like I say, next week. It's set for a pre-order for the 25th for Christmas Day, because I didn't know if I would definitely be able to do it before then, because you can bring a pre-order forward, but you can't really push it back very easily. So it's set for then. So hopefully, if I can get the last couple of bits done in the next day or two, then I'll be able to pull the pre-order forward and that'll drop. And I'm quite looking forward to releasing that, because it's set in England after the apocalypse, essentially. So it's very strange. It's good fun.
Okay, beautiful, brother. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you being on the show, sharing your story, creating the content. Creating worlds for me to enjoy. Of course, it was a pleasure. Stay on afterwards, man. And I will. I've had a lot of pleasure with you, and I'll see you soon, my friend.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Bye now. Take care.
See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or, if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening.